Welcome, all of you, to the new show for Sisters in the Spirit. I'm so grateful and thankful that we were invited back into the CAN-TV news studios at 1300 South Wood. And Sisters in the Spirit, we had a show last year, and as the founder, executive director of Sisters in the Spirit, I'm very grateful to be back on, sharing with the timely expresses of what's going on with black women. Sisters in the Spirit is about educating women of color as to their spirituality, their psychology, history, sociology, way of life, but also in knowing that we as black women are important in the lives of our community. The trauma and tragedies that we have gone through, too many women of color have lost sons, daughters, and especially many of the sons, nephews, grandsons, to the street. We talk about black on black crime, but it's so painful to go through what is going on in the outer world now with the police violence towards black males and women. I want to point out that with all that has gone on in the tragedy of Dallas, which I don't agree with, and anybody that has any kind of humanity and empathy does not agree with murder and killing. That's something that in this patriarchal, male-dominated world that goes on continuously. And we women, no matter what our race, ethnicity, and culture, are caught up in what our men and how they treat each other, power and control over each other. And we get caught up in that. So I want to say to all of you that Sisters in the Spirit was given to me as an assignment to uplift and encourage women of color. I use the term African descendant women because when you really understand the history of the geographical, archaeological history, we all come from the motherland called Africa. No matter what your race and ethnicity, and in my learning geography in grammar school, all the continents were together. So people either they built boats and rowed them to different parts of the country, the continents, or they walked. But the microchronological DNA, which was found to be in everyone on this planet, comes from the original black woman in the motherland. The hominids that turned out to be Homo sapiens, they always imaged the black female as the beginning. Black woman is the original mother of everyone on this planet. We are the original goddesses because Nefertiti and Cleopatra were not Caucasian. They were Egyptian or part of the black continent, which is a beautiful color. That's another thing that we have to deal with, is the misrepresentation of not only the primary colors, because we don't realize out of black is all the colors. The rainbows. Out of black is all the colors. Did you know that? Because here in this dominated society that we live in, that Caucasians started off creating, and we came over as slaves. They use those things to build who and what they are up. But we need to learn how to build who we are. More than just kings and queens. We need to teach our children their self-worth and value. And those of us who are educators must teach outside the box, must take the time to educate our children. I taught in elementary school. I taught at a college in the neighborhood where I lived here in Chicago. And I wanted to know, why are our children going to astray? And the point is, they're not being taught who and what they are as children. I respect, and I will throw in the Jewish community because they do teach their children their history. When they say with the Holocaust, never again, we need to really do this as an everyday part of the education of our children. These boys that are killing each other, they don't know who they are. They're wounded, they don't have understanding of who they are. And we as mothers and grandmothers, aunties, cousins, we have the strength and ability to do that. And I'm here to say to all of you black women, you are somebody, you are beautiful, and you are important. I have a guest with me today, and we both have looked at a program that came on CNN, which is part of a cable show. And they had black women there in regard to the response to the Dallas incident. And I would let Bernice Watson, who is the guest and who is a sister in the spirit, share her thoughts about the women, the mothers that she saw on that show.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show. You know, it's always a privilege being here, and I am very impressed with Sisters in the Spirit, and I think we need to have more of this. When I looked at the mothers and the women there, my heart went out to them, because basically, you know, you have to love your enemy. When I say love your enemy, even though you know that there are things happening when your children go out into the street, and you know you have to teach them a certain way that other ethnic groups don't have to deal with their children. You have to deal with them a certain way, and you start with them when they're young. And I think that what's happening is that we wait until they're older when we start talking to them. But our children, they're unique. They have to know that they have talent and they're creative, and they are born with a gift.
Yes.
They're born with a unique gift of leadership, and we have to teach them that, you know. And those mothers, in having empathy, they wanted other mothers to know that stay proud, hold your head up, and let's not lose faith. Let's not lose faith, because we live in the world together. We have to find out a way to eliminate the cancer, you know, to take it from us. And that goes in everywhere, whether it's dealing with bad policemen, whether it's dealing with whatever we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. We have to find out how to cut that away from the fiber of our lives. And we have to start with our politicians. We have to start with the people that we're voting into office, and we need to go and vote so that we can bring about the legislation that needs to be brought about to help our children. Not just for jobs, because in order to get jobs, they got to get proper education. Mm-hmm. Proper education, that's what they need. And in order to have that, we have to have the right kind of laws passed laws that will protect our children, that will not say to our children, you're a criminal when you walk out the door. That will say to our children, hold your head up when you go out in the street. Yes. Hold your pants up. Be a man. Be the man that God made you to be. A proud black man. And carry yourself like that. And we have to do that.
Yes, this is a call-in show, Hotline 21. And you can call if you have any questions or statements in regards to Sisters in the Spirit as a group, and any of the things that we're talking about right here today. The call-in number is at the bottom of the screen. If you have a question or statement, feel free to call in and input as to what it is what we're talking about. If you have any questions about Sisters in the Spirit, I have an overhead I'd like to show you. Make sure I get it right. This is a beautiful, beautiful work that was done by a black man who respects what it is that we're about. He said, Cynthia, you can have this. Isn't it beautiful? That image that we always see as Nefertiti or what have you. It says Sisters in the Spirit. I want all of you to look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's us black women. We're beautiful. We are the original goddesses. We are the original mothers of everyone on this planet. Now, I do have meetings. I want to show this to you in the Beverly area where I live, in my living room. I've been blessed with a beautiful living room. So I would like for all of you to look at this overhead and look and see what the number is that you can call in order to contact me to come to the meeting, Sisters in the Spirit. And also, you can email me at forceapart@yahoo.com. The phone number is 312-802-4743. And it's just beautiful. I've got this image, and I pray that you can see it even better. I've got to learn a new switchboard. But those are black women sitting on a couch. And comfortability. We're talking about a gathering, not the typical meeting that we're always jumping up and going to. I want you to feel comfortable when you come to my home and we meet. And we will have, because I've had some women ask me, well, why isn't it multicultural? But don't you think it's time for us to come together as black women and encourage and support each other and talk about those things that are important to us? And I explained to this person, Senator Warren met with Hillary Clinton in private, and they strategized and planned when she probably would come together to support her. These women have come together as sisterhoods and have built a strong sisterhood. We need to do the same thing. Build ourselves up, support each other, and come out with a positive way of dealing with what's going on in our families and in our communities. We can do that. That woman that was at that show on CNN last night was just trembling and shaking because she had so much fear of what was going to happen to her son. We have a caller. Yes, caller. Give us your name and where you're calling from and your question or statement.
Hello?
Yes, caller. What is your question, your statement?
Okay, yeah. I was listening to one of your shows, well, one of the Hotline 21 shows last week, and the subject of the Willie Lynch syndromes came up. And was just wondering if you would like to kind of expound on that as it relates to the fiber of black folks. And, the other syndromes like that need to be, I guess, deprogrammed from, deprogrammed from black people, maybe through education in classrooms and workshops. Thank you. I'll take your response off the air.
Well, we can in the public school system at one time have people come in. Could you make that volume a little louder so we can hear better in here what the caller is calling that question? I heard some portions of it.
The Willie Lynch.
What was the question I'm asking my guest?
He wanted us to expound upon the Willie Lynch syndrome.
The Willie Lynch syndrome. Oh, my God. Cliched, but just discussed quite a bit. And this gentleman that had slaves in the Caribbean came to, I believe the state was Virginia, and taught and told those people how to break the slaves down and how to control them, and that if you did these techniques, then they would be forever enslaved themselves, because you would have broken them down. You took the boy, and they took the men and they violated them in front of the women and made a point to the women that if they do not obey, then this is what's going to happen to them. So that, we're talking about conditioning. Now, I have a degree in psychology, and one of the classes we talked about conditioning. They had an example they called the Pavlov, was a P-A-L-O-V-A dog. And what they did was they would condition that dog that when a bell rung, it would salivate or whatever. It was something like that. So let me share something with all of you that has been done to us. 300 years of slavery. We have another caller. Yes, caller. What is your question or statement? Where you're calling from, please? Speak kind of loud for us, please.
I was asking how can those conditions be reversed through education or workshops for, I guess, the general public at large, black and white, so that kind of alleviates some of the racism and or other social ills. I'll take your
what was the question again?
Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
What was the question again? I'm asking my guests to help.
He wants us to expound on how it can be dealt with. How can we deal with it in workshops, or how can we do to eliminate or to take away those kinds of things that have been put upon us.
You're talking about the actual
brainwashing.
You're talking about the curriculum structure. How can we?
Well, not necessarily the curriculum structure, but what we as black women in our homes, or we as parents can do, and as well as educators can do to change the feeling of our young people, because you have to start when they're young.
Well, as a former teacher and educator in the elementary school areas, I said to you, and the issue is at home first. And I have 2 grandsons, and I have 3, but these last 2, 14 and 11, we're going to go over roots. Now, we did, my daughter and I, we saved it, and we're going to process them through it as much as we can with the backstory. So I believe it does family. I know it starts in family first.
Yes.
And we mothers and we women, and this is why I have the group to help women to understand our role, which is powerful, and how we can influence the boys and the girls. So what we're going to do, I had them at the family table, and I said we're going to do a family root history. Because one of the things we've forgotten as black people, we have a fantastic history. Even though slavery was not the only thing that occurred in this country. We did awesome dynamic things. What about some of the inventors, some of the brilliant people that were able to take the creative genius that is in all of us and make it in this racist society, in this white supremacist society? And we need to educate our family members as to the power that they have within them.
Okay, could I also interject?
Just go ahead, Beatrice.
I worked in the Job Corps system for a while, and my position there was to work with different ethnic groups, and these were women, young women. And the first thing I did was to help them learn about themselves, because you cannot evolve unless you know who you are and where you come from. And our job was to first, who are you? You know, the first important thing is you're born.
Yes.
The second important thing is, why are you here? Now, we're all here for a purpose, and we're all here for a reason. So that's what I do when I talk to young people, because you have to first get them to feel value in themselves and purpose in themselves, and to know that they're beautiful. And you cannot look at TV and look at what the commercials tell you about beauty. Mm-hmm. The beauty starts within you, and that's what we as mothers have to teach our children. And we cannot really depend on the educators to do it, because all educators are not interested in necessarily pulling your children up. You have to do that for yourself, and your children have to go to school understanding and questioning the teachers. Mm-hmm. Questioning. You don't have to take face value what someone tells you. You learn and you read and you question.
I hope that answered your question, sir, but feel free for anyone that's listening to this show. Yes, hello? Sir, you had a response?
Well, yeah, that answered the question for the most part. But I would also want to inject, how could that same type of teaching be put up on white folks so that they know not to try and inflict that on or take advantage of black folks when they encounter each other, so that doesn't become, I guess, a point of conflict?
Well, my point I wanted to make to you as I look out into the world today, a former teacher educator, is that Caucasians have to look honestly at themselves. One thing that President Obama did he made that point. And I saw interviews of Caucasians, and one was saying how difficult that it was going to be to have to do this, because they have lived such a white privileged existence in this country and not been educated. Remember, they're not taught either. They have just grown up being who they are in a system that was perpetuated by those earlier. Now, when they talk about the founding fathers, they take such pride in the founding fathers, but every last one of them had slaves. And that is not taught so much as it is that whole issue of breaking away from the British was that whole hierarchical structure of some people on top, some on the bottom. That whole structural thing has caused many problems throughout the globe, not just in the Caucasian region, but all around the world. When the patriarchal structure gets destroyed, if it ever will be, not destroyed through the violence that has been perpetuated historically, then maybe we'll learn to start loving one another. Women can make a difference. All women of all cultures. Indian women are fighting also, because they're being raped and told that a man become a man by raping an Indian woman. They're being thrown to the side when the man dies in their life, and they get lost because they are not valued. But we have to deal with so many different issues. But right now, first things first, as black women, we have a responsibility to make a change in our community. And we can do that once we know who and what we are. And I say for Caucasians, the difficulty that I'm hearing some of them say is very hard. But if we have those Caucasians associates, talk to them, dialogue. Hopefully some of them will say, you know what, I don't know, I didn't know, I don't want to be called a racist, but the understanding that we have prejudices, all of us as human beings.
But I would like to, I'd like to say
Let me
too.
ask a quick question.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, sir.
There's been a similar type of, I guess, relationship between the early Caucasians and the American Indians, but the American Indians seem to have survived by going into reservations and, I guess, chartering themselves as different nations, so they got to really know themselves. Is that a similar option for black people?
Well, let's say indigenous people all around the globe have a sense of their own community value and self-worth. So when you have others come in to try to take over, and unfortunately, when we look at the history of our world that we identify with, Caucasians coming from Europe, the Europeans, have tried to dominate and take control. And example, and I must throw this up, in Australia they had convicts that went to that landmass and they tried to genocide the Aboriginal people. But the Aboriginal people are black too. So it's all around the globe, Donna, historically. But right now, where we stand, who we are, all around the globe, women can make a difference, whether they're Caucasian or whatever. And right now, my assignment is to help black women to understand who they are and the worthiness of who they are, so we can make a strong difference in our community and in our family structure.
I also would like to add, caller, I also would like to add that the news media has a lot to do with perpetuating fear in everybody. So that's one area. If we can get the news media to start putting out positive information about blacks, about our black young people, showing positive examples of black young people that are doing positive things, and in families that are successful. That's why Bill Cosby's show was so successful, because we wanted to show how we are intelligent people and we are knowledgeable people.
Yes.
And so the news media has to be shown how they can work in this, because as long as they're being fed, people are being fed propaganda, you're not going to change what's going on in their minds. As long as they're fed fear, doubt about any race of people, it's going to continue. So that's what we need to start at.
Thank you, Beatrice. I appreciate that. Now let me do this overhead so many of you who are looking in can see that Sisters in the Spirit. Look at them beautiful black women sitting on that couch. You're welcome to my home, to be on the couches that I have available in my big living room, and we can meet there. And the phone number to call is 312-802-4743. 312-802-4743. Sisters in the Spirit. And you can contact me, forceofpower@yahoo.com. forceofpower@yahoo.com. And any callers, if you're interested, those dates would be Sunday at 3 p.m. And I will give you the address once you call me and contact me. And for all of you women, right now its assignment is black women. There will be open meetings where I will have gentlemen come back, because there's some beautiful black men out here that do support us in our work. Yeah. And also we'll have an open meeting, multicultural too, because we do need to dialogue, right, Bernice?
But you know,
my first show, forgive me.
Yeah.
But we need to dialogue. But everything, first things first, is what I've learned over the years. And so right now, basically, just building a core group. You're welcome to come. Thank you so very much for all of you who have listened in and continue to call in and see me next Thursday at 6 p.m. Sisters in the Spirit. Peace and blessings to all of you. And thank you, Bernice, for being here. Bernice, I keep calling her Bernice. Please forgive me, audience. Beatrice Watson.
Beatrice Watson.
Forgive me, Beatrice.
With Jawa Productions, Beatrice Watson.
I'm so nervous. Okay. Thank you all. Glad to be back with all of you.
Yes.
Peace and blessings to you all.